Attention listeners, this podcast is rated R. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Lit Talkers podcast. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Cassie.
I'm Holly.
I'm Tarah.
So we want to start the new year and share some of our favorite reads of 2023 with you guys. Whether they were just favorites for us or favorites as a group, we have quite a lot to talk about. So I'm going to start us off strong. One of my favorite reads this year was actually something Jenn recommended to me, and it was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches.
So good.
I feel like I always fuck that up.
What a mouthful.
It's by Sangu.
Really
It's by Sangu and Mandanna, and it's about a young witch named Mika who basically gets called upon through, I think, an ad to come help raise these young witches. And there's a lot of power and a lot of things at play. It's just a cozy little fantasy read.
It's a slow burn, too.
It is. It's so good. There's a little bit of romance. There's a lot of found family, which Jenn and I are obsessed with. We've bonded over that. So if you're looking for something just lighthearted and welcoming, it's fantastic. I don't have enough good things to say about it. I am so excited to read more by the author. And honestly, I'll probably reread it again this year because it was that good.
I reread it within 4 months. Like, it was my favorite read of 2022, and I reread it January of 2023.
So, yeah, full disclosure, I always say that I'm going to reread stuff, and I don't ever reread stuff. So don't listen to me about rereading. I need to be better about it, especially where, like, I have started annotating stuff more recently. It would benefit me to do it. But there's so many books. It's just hard, guys. So my second favorite this year, one of my other favorites, I had so many, this was a good 5-star year for me, was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by my favorite ever, Christina Lauren. They are an amazing team. They're amazing authors. There are very few things of theirs that I haven't absolutely loved. This one is about two people, obviously Josh and Hazel, who kind of meet again. They were acquaintances in college. And through a work party sort of situation, they run into each other and basically decide that they're going to set each other up on blind dates and spend the entirety of those blind double dates literally wrapped up in each other, whether they realize it or not. There are a few tropes that are like not my favorite tropes, and I don't want to spoil things, so I'm not going to get into it. But regardless of any of that, just one of my all-time, definitely top 3 Christina Lauren books for me. Yeah. Like, definitely top 3. And I finished everything except her, like, series this year. Well, their series this year. So every book of theirs, except the ones that were in a series, I finished. I'm done with Christina Lauren until the new stuff comes out next year.
I am not. Don't brag. They're one of my favorites, too. And I've really just bombed on them this year. I have not read that many.
And Holly read The Unhoneymooners this year.
I did, and even though it was closed door, I really did like it. It's one of the few rom-coms that...
closed door?
It wasn't necessarily...
Oh, it sure was. It sure was, and they didn't even warn me.
Okay, some of their stuff is spicier than other
Now, I will
stuff.
say, Beautiful Bastards, it's like their series
and I haven't
or whatever.
Read that one.
It's more open door, if you would like that. But I will say it is very tropey. And that's the one thing, like Christina Lauren, I really adored about them, is it wasn't very tropey, and then when you read some of their older stuff, and it's very tropey.
I feel like a lot of their stuff is pretty tropey.
I mean, but like The Unhoneymooners.
One bed.
Right, but it was like, I don't know how to...
Enemies to lovers.
That is
trope
that's going to be a different
city.
podcast idea. I hate when people use enemies to lovers when it's not enemies to lovers.
Oh my God. Okay.
It is one of my, like... It's one of my, like, whew, it makes me twitch a little.
But I will say, like, I'm the kind of person where if I'm going to read a rom-com, I need at least one spicy scene. I don't want to just, like, waste my time reading about, fantasy love stories. Like,
although
they're a dime a dozen to me. Most of them, anyway. There's exceptions to the rule, but most of them just kind of bore me.
So are you wanting to read more rom-coms, Holly?
Because you're a horror,
I think
horror
it just
girly.
all depends.
I have
think
one
that,
if you like some spicy stuff that I read, and I thought it was really fun that I ended up reading the entire series, and I didn't think that I was going to, but it was
you gotta drop the name. What is it?
It's I can't remember the author, but it's the Dirty Martini Running Club. It's like a series of 4 books. One is like
Look at Cassie writing it down.
Hold on, let me pull up my Goodreads real quick.
Running or writing club?
Running, like they run to burn off
that
calories from
sounds
their
gross.
martinis. But there's really like only like
Drunk running? Regular running sounds bad enough.
they get drunk after they
I honestly
run.
think I could run like 6 miles if I was drunk.
But what
sober I
my
ain't
point
doing
is for
shit.
you, Holly, is if you like the spice, they're really cute. They're really quick reads. They're a lot of fun. And there's a lot more spice in 2 or 3 of them.
Here's the thing about romance to me that I've discovered recently is I feel like sometimes I do get very slumpy because I'm reading huge Stephen King novels. I'm reading stuff that is really serious
It
and
breaks
heavy.
it up.
And sometimes I just stop reading after that and I'm like, ugh, it kind of feels like a chore to get into another book. So I've realized that if I go to these romances, that sometimes it's a nice little breath of fresh air to get me into the next serious thing. So I can, why not both?
I do keep a Christina Lauren book on hand on my bookshelf for when I do need that, like that happy ever after a fantasy book, because like you can read Christina Lauren no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple days you're done with it because she writes, or they write 300 pages.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
They're really
A
short.
little
They're
bit
really
more,
they're
yep.
sweet. They're gonna bang and they're gonna be happy at the end. That's all that matters to me. I mean, at the end of the day.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
So I got it pulled up. It's so the one that I read that I really liked that made me read the other ones, it's called Flirting with Forever by Claire Kingsley. And then it's 4 different books she's got in a series. It's about a group of friends. They each have their own story. You don't actually have to read them in any specific order though, because of the way that they base it around and how things go. There's a few things that may be like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense, but it's not big enough to the plot to disrupt it, so you could read it in whatever order you wanted.
Will you just screenshot that and send it to our
Yeah.
Facebook message? No problem.
I can.
Group chat it.
I will. I loved them.
Miss Stephen King.
It's my turn?
Yes, ma'am.
I gotta reference my notes. So I'm not very good at explaining things, and I don't want to give too much away. So I talked about Fairytale a little bit in the last, in our episode 0, so Stephen King, Fairytale, that was my favorite book of last year. And I'm a huge Stephen King person, but mainly just because he's horror. But Fairytale drew me in because, and Cassie read it. She's the only other one who's read it.
Yep.
Christy read it.
She did, but she's not here. So
I know, but she loved it, man. If
I
that tells
brought
you
it.
anything.
So we have a cool thing with our book club where November we did a book potluck and we all brought our favorite book and we got to exchange with people. And you could read one of them. You could read as many as you wanted. So another girl from our book club read Fairytale, and she is not a Stephen King person. She's very like just rom-coms, just kind of more fluffy stuff.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
she loved it. She's like, I'm so glad that you brought it. I would have never read it if it weren't for that.
She read it at 4.5.
Yeah. So that's awesome to me. So I think the thing that people can enjoy about this book is that I like stuff that's based in reality. I'm not a fantasy girl. And the first 25% of this book is totally different than the last 75%. So the first part of it is just about a regular boy who finds himself helping this older man and his dog. And if you're a dog person, you're going to love this book because that's what really Charlie...
The whole thing is about
it's about saving the dog.
He gets himself into the predicament he does because he is trying to save Reid.
Yes.
Why didn't you
Yeah.
guys tell me that? I would have read it ages
Oh,
ago.
you'll love it.
God,
And she's
yes.
a German Shepherd.
Just do it.
Yes, and she's incredible. So, Tarah,
Does
you have to
anything
read
bad
it.
happen? Because if it does, I can't read it. My dog is good.
Spoiler. That's the only
Okay.
spoiler I'm going to get. The dog does not die.
Okay.
So, we're going to...
I can read it
But
then.
so, it's a really good... It was a good way to draw me in, and then it was like, holy cow, now we're into this other fantasy world, and it is just like a big fairy tale. And I loved that it referenced, kind of things like Jack and the Beanstalk and giants and just this whole different world.
I feel it, and I haven't read Stephen King, so I can't really touch on this, but I do feel like there were still some dark elements to it.
Yes, yeah.
Like, there were still some things that were very, not necessarily in a bad way and not overly heavy, but there were things that were definitely heavy and a little dark.
Well, yeah, without saying too much, it kind
Upsetting.
of got a little Hunger Games-ish at the end.
Yeah.
So there were a few, kind of violent parts, but it wasn't anything like blood and gore and like a Quentin Tarantino movie in a book. There's not going to be blood shooting everywhere out of arteries. So you're good on that. And then I guess I can move on to my second favorite book of the year. Holy cow, man. So the Last House on Needless Street is an incredible novel. It's by Catriona Ward. This novel had me in a chokehold. I'm telling you what. So I recommended this to be our book club book for October, and it was really mixed reviews. So did all of you read it in this room?
I didn't finish it.
Tarah didn't
I
finish
read
it.
it.
I gave the lowest rating at our book club.
So here's the thing about Needless
So.
Street is it is a roller coaster. I can't even really say what it's about. It's about a man.
You really
who,
can't, though.
It's just
It's like an acid trip.
It is definitely like an acid trip, and
Not that I've ever been on one, mom or dad.
So it had me guessing until the very end, and that's what I loved about it. Is I love something that keeps me on my toes, that has constantly going one way or another, and at the very end you still don't know exactly what's going on. But then I
Literally.
loved the afterword. The author tied it together in such a beautiful way that I was just like, oh my god, best book ever. So I read it twice within 2 months,
even,
a month.
yeah.
And I was like obsessed with this book for a while. If Stephen King weren't my number one, then this would probably be my number one.
Have you ever read anything else by the author, though?
No.
you-
I think I got it off Book Talk. As I was just going on Book Talk looking at like, oh, the creepiest reads, and most of them are kind of BS. Like,
Right.
I read Just Like Home, and that one was terrible. So you really get hit and miss. But I read this one, and yeah, it was crazy. And then I had Anna read it, and she's into the same kind of books that I am, and she's like, oh my God, this book. So if you're looking for something that is just a twist and a turn and just a mind fuck in the best way, then I would highly recommend this
There's
book.
a best way to mind fuck people. Just let me know.
I mean, obviously you're not doing it the right way, but
I will say, Christina, which Christy is my best friend, and she's in the book club too, and she read it, and she rated it higher than I did. She really found it very intriguing, and she found the ending to be somewhat of a awesome ending. You know how some like movies or even TV shows, they end in the worst way possible?
yes.
Where Needless
many.
Street, honestly, that was the thing that saved it for me too. The ending was incredible.
Yeah, when people got to the very end, they're like,
Yeah.
I still don't know what happened. I'm like, then you probably, it's just not for you. Like, I don't know if you're just,
Yeah, I think Christy rated it a 3.5 or a 4.
Yeah,
And
I
I
gave
rated
it-
it a 2.
but I know
2.5?
that part of yours was because you didn't like the narration. And I
It's
will
true,
say,
yes.
this was a triple POV. And
Yeah.
so
one
it
was one and it's
Quadruple
not till
not till the
till
yeah.
the end.
Well, and
Sorry.
also like
I didn't even get past the first one.
well,
Getting through.
I
his
think what
point of
threw me
view.
off too was one of the POVs is a cat, and it would in the middle of it, the narrator would be like, "Meow,"
she would go, "Meow."
and I'm over here at work like, "What the fuck?" And it would just be like that. And so I was sitting at my desk, and Brandy, who's the leader of our book club, is like a row of before me, and then Christina's like 2, and I'd just be in the middle of the day going, "Meow."
Yeah,
And it was obnoxious. to
I
me.
remember the first time I was reading it, I was telling Cassie about it. I was like,
a
you
wonderful
have to
meow,
read
by
this
the way.
book.
Thank
One of the
you.
POVs is from a cat. And she's like, what? Yeah, it's just, I would highly recommend it. And I would love for you all to read it, and then we can chat about it because.
I think we need to have a full podcast about it because I could literally go into like I
Yeah.
would read it again just to talk about it.
Yeah, I'd read it
Okay.
for a third time.
I'm
and
down.
not many books.
I would
trying
read
to
it
have
this
it.
time though.
Yeah, not many
Tarah
books
can
have me
finish it.
gripped like that.
I would
I
definitely
think it was
read
on
it.
Kindle Unlimited for a while. It may still be. So
I
I
can check
had to
that out
rent
when
mine from the
Taurus.
library.
I don't know.
I did
Those
too.
books
I
out
did
on
the
that.
audiobook on Libby.
I think that's what it was.
I
Is
have
like
the
I just
Kindle
didn't
app.
get into it, and then it was time for me to return it, and I knew other people in the book club wanted to read it, and I was like, I might as well return it 2 days early. I'm not going to finish it in 2 days, so I just went ahead and returned it early and was like, I'll just not.
It is on Kindle
It'll be
Unlimited.
Yes. So
I just looked it up. Yeah.
I need all my bookie friends to go talk about it, to go read it, and then we can talk about it.
I'd even
because
be
I'm
I would
interested.
so
honestly,
obsessed.
and if narration is something that's big to you as a listener, I would skip the audio.
Yeah.
I would just read it because if we were to do another podcast about it, I would read it because I think I would
too.
absorb more.
Yes.
That cat narration for me, audio threw me off.
And that's kind of what I liked about it, because I'm a big audiobook person, and I like that it was a male and a female. One of my biggest pet peeves, and a narrator really does kind of make or break the experience. The book we're reading for book club right now, I hate it because the narration is terrible. We won't get too much into that right now, but I did like this one because it was male and female. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when a female tries to talk like a male, and it just does not work. So I'm glad that they separated the two.
So I didn't read our book club, just to touch on it. I didn't read our book club book on audio, and I read it just on my Kindle. I loved it, man. It was so much better.
Switch over.
Yeah, me too.
We'll try it. All right, enough about me.
Hi, everybody. So, my first favorite book of the year was The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole, and I really love this book. It was the first fantasy book this year where I had all of my emotions, like, let out. I was mad, I was sad, I was happy, I was literally laughing out loud. The characters are great. So I really enjoyed it. It's an urban fantasy for those who don't know what it is. And so basically it's dual point of view, and you're basically getting a point of view of Diana, who's the main character, and she is basically like a demon, essentially, type of thing. And she is like the best morally gray female character that I've read. And I love, because I think that I don't read a whole lot of morally gray female characters. It's always like a man
unusual.
that's
I got you.
yeah.
After. I got you, Rick.
Like,
So what is an urban fantasy?
so basically it's where they
good
put
question.
fantasy elements, and there's a fantasy world, and it can be done in several different ways, but a lot of times it's like alongside also like things that are today and now. So there's cell phones, and they go to New York City, and it's just like it is today. But then, you know, you can go to the woods, and, you know, you go to a fairy tree and you're in the fairy realm, or different things like that.
Okay, that makes more sense.
A lot of people didn't like that it was an urban fantasy, apparently, is what I read, because they said it took them out of it. But I kind of enjoyed it. Maybe it's just because this book has everything in it. It's got, sorry, it's got demons in it. You have like flying, shape-shifting creatures. You have vampires. You have werewolves. You have witches. And then you have gods, like, you know, Zeus-type gods in it. You have other realms, different planets, like... And then it kind of blends like technology and magic. And so I thought it was really good.
Oh, it's on Kindle Unlimited.
Yes. It's just, it had so much in it. And it is a big book. I didn't realize when I downloaded it. It's like almost 600 pages, I think. But it is dual point of view, which I actually didn't like the main character for like half the book.
The female or the male?
Main character for like the first half of the book. And it's because he is supposed to be like also morally gray, but isn't really. He's just kind of pitying himself, and it's fine. But we'll not say more. But Diana's a badass, and I love badass women in books, so that's why.
I'm down for that.
And then my second one, according to what I told Cassie...
She's just casually like grabbing our sheet to make sure that
I talk about the right book.
You can talk about any of your books.
I read so many great books this year, going from reading like 1 to 2 to maybe 3 books a year to like reading, like I think I hit like 34.
Oh my
5
god.
stars?
Like,
yes.
No,
well, no, they weren't all 5 stars. No.
Oh my god.
Oh, no,
Send me your list, please.
No, but just like in general, reading that many, I feel like there was a lot of really good ones in there, and there's a lot that I like really loved. I think I gave most of my books this year like 4-star ratings, 3 to 4, because I don't know if I would go back and read them again, and I'm not going to give a book a 5-star rating if I don't want to go back and read it again.
I feel like that's the same way I feel. It takes a lot for me to give a book 5 stars.
Yeah,
unless I really adored it. Most like rom-coms and stuff, I'm only giving 4 stars.
Yeah, not
the
me.
most.
I'm like Oprah. You get a 5-star. You get a 5-star. You get a 5-star.
Yeah, because we
I get a
have
5-star.
disagreed on some books.
But I guess
I feel like I'm that way,
absolutely.
A 3-star for me is a good rating.
It
Like,
is.
I know other
It's
people
average.
are kind
Yeah.
of
No, I
like,
agree.
I don't know, it's on the low end. For me, I'm like, I had a fun time with that read. I enjoyed it. It made me feel a few things. I wasn't overly invested.
Yeah.
I had fun while I read it, and I'm done, and now I can move on to something else.
I feel like for me, 5-star reads are in the moment. If that in the moment
Yep.
made me so happy to be a reader.
Yeah.
5-star. Because like the book club book, I rated 5. Not because the story was good, but because one of the main characters can just, it was chef's kiss.
Okay.
Like, that just for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
She's
was that
easy to
one
please.
thing that just
That
pushed
one-
it
yeah.
over the top. I agree.
I'm
feel
very
that.
generous though. I will be. I will say.
I had a
very
lot of
generous.
5-star, like a lot this year. I was going back through my list and I was like, oh, which ones do I want to talk about?
Keep going. We didn't mean to cut you off.
So my second book is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros.
Meh.
You haven't even rated it. You haven't even rated it.
So we're gonna talk about it
Because
we'll
if
do
you
it more in depth.
Force me into a rating, it's
I
not
also-
going to be good.
I
so
also-
let me stew and we'll come back to it.
She's
let
just
you
mad
stew.
because she's turning into a fantasy girly. I also read Fourth Wing and I rated it 5 as well.
Yes.
But that's not one of my fave books of the year. But it was so good.
So for those who haven't heard, if you haven't heard about it, which is probably not a lot of you, but if you haven't, it's basically about a war college that teaches people to be either like you have 4 quadrants and you get put into infantry, scribe, healer, or dragon rider. And of course, we follow characters in the dragon rider quadrant, and it is you follow the little Violet around, and she's very frail and
Violet.
shouldn't be where
Violence.
she is.
I just think I don't connect with small people.
Damn.
Short people?
We don't
Are we saying short people?
Yeah.
Okay, so for reference, Cassie, how tall are you?
5'9".
And I am 5'11" and a half.
I'm 5'4".
How tall are you, Tarah?
I'm like 5'3".
Yeah, so
Yeah, you're
me
shorter
and
than I am.
Cassie are big giants.
I'm sorry.
So you don't like me, Cassie?
Wow.
No.
No, it has
Yikes.
nothing to do with that. I just think
We
in
don't
literature,
like small-minded people.
I did not connect. Not in that way. I just didn't connect with Violet as a character.
I will say yes. Now, see,
or any of the men for that matter. So I just probably
you're
have
just
issues.
really judgmental. For me,
sitting here talking
for-
about how many 5 stars I handed out, and then I fucking
right. For me, though, I think what Rebecca Yarros did was she played so heavily on books that I read when I was a teenager. Divergent, Maze Runner, stuff like that, where it really just like brought me back to when I was 14 in my bedroom.
the nostalgia kicker. For
Yes,
sure.
because like it was so good. And I will say I have not read Iron Flame. Nor am I going to read it anytime soon. But that's what I loved about this book. She put the 2000s crack in it and was just like, my readers are going to love this. And we did. We ate it up because it was something we were used to. It's something it was something we connected to when we were younger. And sometimes we all, at the ages that we are, or any age, need to feel like a kid again. And that's what it did for me. It made me feel like I was 14 again in my mom and dad's house, in my bedroom, underneath my Hannah Montana comforter. You know what I mean?
I did a little more
Reid.
spice than anything I was reading at 14 in this.
I will say I read some spicy books when I was little that probably I shouldn't have, that were left out, that my parents didn't notice that went missing.
Yeah.
Sorry, mom and dad. It just is what it is. My mom read those spicy books and they were as spicy as now. I mean, obviously, but they were still spicy.
Yeah.
And they had like the Fabio on the cover and stuff, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
get it.
I remember
those Regency romances.
Yes.
I read the Danielle Steele and the Debbie McComber and anything
Yeah.
I could eat up off of my
I
grandma's
used
bookshelf.
to read Pretty Little Liars, and I was just into different kinds of books. And I remember one time my great aunt was like, "Oh, I've got a whole box of books for you. You love books." I was like, "Yeah, go ahead and give them to me." And they were all romance novels. They were all just like cheap little throwaway Fabio on the cover.
They're like the
just-
mass market, like $3.99 books.
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
So I was really excited for this box of books, and then was like, "Oh, thanks." So I think I probably skimmed through them a couple times, but just not my wheelhouse.
Only sent me Christian books as a kid.
Love that.
Man, I
they
hate
were
that
all
for
about
you.
My mom's friends would bring me those. They'd
they
be
were
like,
these
"Yeah,
fiction
here's some
books, but they all had
Right.
to do with church and things. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh no, there's
Ju-
nothing wrong. No.
But me as a kid, I didn't really want that. That's not what I was wanting to read.
Not the right audience.
No.
For sure.
Okay, so my favorite books for 23, some of my favorite books for 2023. I did The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea in the intro, but I won't talk on that one as much. I did pick for Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. That book, man, was so good. It had me... Oh, that book. I finished the book, and I came out of my bedroom, and I had the book clenched to my chest, and I was sobbing. Joe was in the kitchen. And Joe, hi, that's, my husband. And I went to I went to him and I was like, "Would you crawl to me?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And
I feel like that's like, if I were a worm, would you love me?
Yes, I would be like, so not getting, spoiler, but he like fights for her in the book, and he is like dying and trying to crawl to her.
And I definitely feel like it's almost a he falls first situation, which is absolutely perfect.
It's rivals to lovers.
Yeah.
It's so beautifully done. It reads like a historical fiction, which I agree on, until the very end.
Yeah.
And then but it's built to, Ruthless Vows comes out the day after Christmas. Yeah. And it's set up to be a fantastic fantasy novel. But I came to him and I was like, "Would you crawl to me? Like, if we were in war and I was like being taken away, would you crawl after me and like yell my name and try to get to me?" And he was just like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He's like, "Why do you read?" And I was like, I just need to know, because like if you're not loving me like that, I'm not in this. Like, I need someone who loves me like, hey, he loves Iris. And that book was so good. It literally tore me apart. And it was one of the books that we read for book club in November. It was another member's favorite read, and it was Cassie's. And I had been putting it off because, like, it was super hyped. Mm-hmm. I was really nervous to read it. And if you can hear any little voices, it's my daughter that's in the back. But I read it in 3 days. Maybe even 2. It was so good.
You read it fast.
I read it super fast.
I feel like I did too. I flew through it considering I was reading a physical book, and I don't do physical books hardly ever. So that was definitely...
My second favorite was, I mentioned I fell in love with the trilogy. It was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. It's so freaking good. Caraval follows 2 sisters that get entered into a carnival type game. I absolutely loved it. I will say, if anyone wants to call me Crimson, that would be just chef's kiss. So it was really good.
Call you Crimson?
That's literally who he calls her. That's what Julian calls Scarlet, and that's his nickname for her. And I literally, in every single book from Caraval to Legendary, I highlighted Crimson. And it was so good. It's YA. It's YA fantasy, so it's not spice.
Yeah. I own this book and I've never read it. And I don't know why. I bought it, I think at like, oh gosh, no. So I used to work at Joseph Beth. It was my first job as a teenager. And I just like bought all of these books that like I found that I thought would sound interesting. And then I had too many. And then, you become an adult and real life happens. And you're like, oh man, I have all these books that I haven't read. But then you only read like the things that people are telling you to read.
Yeah, they
you never get back to the
burner.
ones that you actually like
Absolutely
picked up
Bottom
for yourself.
Of the TBR, yeah.
Yeah,
so
it was so good.
I bought it
recommend
recently, so we can Betty read it.
Okay.
I'm down.
I will read it again. I mean, no complaints on my side. I do reread books. I plan on reading Divine Rivals before I read Ruthless Vows, and probably just have another mental breakdown, but it's fine.
And you can go right into the next mental breakdown.
Then I can just, roll right into it. But definitely, those were some really good books. In 2023, I lived in books. It was like most of them for me, except for the sprinkled 1 or 2 were 4 or 5s for me. Yeah. Nah, I like 3, 4 or 5s, but mostly like 4s and 5s. I really had a good year. I can't complain.
Except for Needless Street.
Needless Street, yeah. A 2. I think I did 2.5. Okay. I think, yeah. I wish Goodreads give us
it's
freaking
okay to
half
be
stars.
wrong sometimes. I still love you.
So there were a couple of books that we buddy read as a group. Jenn and I were leading Betty Reads for book clubs, so it gave us an opportunity to read some books that we kind of wanted to read. I think we pretty much just picked the Betty Read books. Yeah, we did. One of those was Love Theoretically. And I know that there's some mixed opinions. So we had previously read Love Hypothesis,
which was her debut.
Yes.
And then she came out with
earlier in the year.
Love on the Brain, which was the second one. And then Love Theoretically was her third, and now she's released her YA.
Checkmate.
Yeah, check
Yep.
and mate. Check
Yeah.
and mate or something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
And then she's got some novellas. And then next
Loath
year
to
she
Love
has
You.
a paranormal romance coming out.
Called Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Allie Hazelwood. author.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, honestly, I had to look up the
Did you really?
yeah, I literally just Googled love theoretically because I was like, what the heck is this book about? Because it's so similar to the love hypothesis. I think I said that in
It
a group chat.
is.
I'm like,
So-
which
And
one
that
is this?
was,
So
I
I've
think that was the
given
biggest
up.
complaint.
Yeah, I've given up on Allie Hazelwood.
Yeah.
I hate to do it. I've read all of the books that she's came out with except for Check and Mate. I don't do YA romance. It's not my biggest fan because I don't like to watch high schoolers.
Yes. That's my biggest problem I have with the do-over.
But it was so good
It
still.
was cute. But
But,
still,
like,
then when I brought myself back, I'm
and I
like,
read
kids.
YA fantasy. So I guess like I can't really say that because YA fantasy still follows the same like age restrictions. It's just like YA romance is just, I don't know. It's something about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the biggest complaint I have against Allie Hazelwood is branch out.
Yes.
You did such a great thing with love, the love hypothesis.
See?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
See,
she did.
I
She
liked
opened.
Love Theoretically better than Love Hypothesis. I thought that the characters in it were so much more
That's because it's her
relatable.
third book. I'm not saying
But-
you're wrong.
I did read it different order than you guys.
Yeah.
And so
'Cause you
I can agree that they are all very similar.
Well, and I think that we
Very.
said that at the time too, that if we had read Love Theoretically first, it would have
We
been a
would've, yeah.
5-star and Love Hypothesis would have been a 4-star.
But because we read it the way
Yeah.
we did, it's like you're
That first one
watching
really
this-
was
yeah.
good.
You're watching the same movie,
Yeah.
just with different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think my problem may be because, like I say, like rom-coms kind of all run together for me. So
You
the
cannot
fact
say
that-
these aren't spicy.
A
I
little
mean, they
bit.
have one scene.
A
But
little bit.
they're still spicier than
they're not
non-honeymooners.
They're not
They
closed
are.
door.
That's fair.
But still, like nothing really stuck out to me about these. It was about the same thing. It was about STEM romance, people and romance, and yeah, it just all kind of ran together for me. And I have a bad memory, so I'm like, I don't know which
And-
one this was. It was fine.
Yeah,
I probably
and
gave
like
it 3 stars.
the female characters and the male main characters are very structured, very the same. Adam to I forgot the other ones.
Olive.
Adam and Olive.
Adam and Olive. You had what's Love on the Brain?
Jack.
Liam. No, Love on the Brain is like Liam and someone. I don't know. Anyway, they're
I
all
hated
very.
Love on the Brain.
Oh, Love on the Brain was awful.
It was
I rated
torture.
it 3
I didn't read it.
or 2.
I wasn't happy until like
Yeah, no, it was just. I feel like
Jack
she needs
and
to.
somebody.
It was Elise.
even
Elise,
in the
yeah.
end, like something happens
Was it
to
Elise or
somebody in the
Elsie?
end of that book
Elsie.
Oh,
Elsie. I don't
something.
know.
on
Something
Love
with a
on the
cow.
Brain at the
Yes.
end. Something finally happens in that book,
Yeah.
and I was like, can this
Well-
be it now? Like, am I done? And
And
then
I
there were still like 2 other
don't-
little chapters, and I'm like,
So I have read
Why?
one other STEM romance, and it was by an author that I absolutely stan.
Wait, there's other STEM romances?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
then
the
she did.
whole
Actually,
world.
oh, then Allie Hazelwood did nothing new.
one that I
Whatever.
screenshotted you, the Dirty Martini Running Club.
Yeah.
One of those ladies is kind of like a STEM.
See, I
person
gave her
in
so much
romance.
props for the love hypothesis because I thought it was a new breath of fresh air to the romance genre. Romance genre, it's the same book, different covers on it, different authors, and none of them really are different. They're just there to be a romance, book. So what I said in my review for the love hypothesis is that I'm like, oh my God, Allie Hazelwood did something so remarkable. She did STEM. That's so cool. That's so groovy.
Yeah.
Listen, but like I didn't start using Goodreads until last year.
Yeah.
So the other one that I
So-
read was by Penny Reid, which I stand Penny Reid all day, every day. Both her Winston Brothers series, her Knitting in the City. Go read them. They're fantastic. They all have varying levels of spice, but it still exists. It's still there. Absolutely love. So I decided to branch out and read 10 Trends to Seduce Your Best Friend, and which is a STEM romance. And
No idea.
it was just, there's so much of this stigma, and the stigma exists everywhere. Women are underappreciated in any field that they're in.
Every day.
And
Dumb freaking
I feel
women.
like the
Speak on
stigma
it.
in STEM romance, and you saw it with both of Allie Hazelwood's books, there's
All three.
always some man
All 3.
that is manipulating a woman. And the fact that we're played off as being too dumb to realize it
pisses you off
until the last minute or until some other person points it out upsets me. And we're talking about women who are brilliant.
Yes.
They're physicists. They're engineers. And they're not smart enough to figure this out on their own. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does. But that stigma that
why can't we write them better?
we're naive and gullible. And so I've been disappointed in STEM books so far. And I'm open to a good recommendation.
I almost felt that same way, and I know we've talked about it could be the character, but I know in the first book we read, we were like,
Which one?
this dumb, I don't know.
The love hypothesis?
The blue one.
The blue one.
The blue one or the red
so
one?
the blue one is
or yellow, sorry.
Yeah, the blue one is love hypothesis.
So the whole time Olive was like, oh, I don't know if Adam likes me. Okay, you're really smart, but you're really stupid. Like, it took
Or
so
like-
long for her to figure it out that it was almost unbelievable.
There was a level of
Yes.
naivete there for sure. And when the big thing in that book happens and she doesn't want to tell Adam. And he's the first person when he does
I was,
find
looking
out
at you.
to jump to
He was
her
like,
side.
Bitch, who you talking to like that?
Yeah.
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 I love
liked
that.
Love Theoretically better though, because
Yeah.
I feel
He
like
picked up.
I feel like
Yes.
Jack was a much more developed male character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Should-
like he kind
yeah.
of reminded me of my husband a little bit, because like he was just like always doing the right thing, always being straightforward.
He picked up
and,
on her like what 30 pages in. He was like, "You're
Oh, yeah.
fake to everyone. Why?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
are you being so fake to everyone?"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I stand by this. It should not take you 3 books to write such a good book, because like you've done it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Love on the Brain was awful. Awful. You just took Love Hypothesis, put 2 different names on him with different hair, and published it. That what thought went into
And
that?
see, I was really disappointed in that one because it was talking about the girl with like fun hair and like piercings and
Oh, that
tattoos.
made her so
and I'm
unique.
like, oh, that's kind of cool because like I feel like I relate with people like that. Like
Yeah.
I was one of those girls.
and then she turned out to be a
and
slug.
then I'm just like, you're so annoying though.
did.
Like she was so annoying.
She literally, I just was like, and honestly,
And I didn't.
after Love Theoretically, I've given up on Allie Hazelwood.
But-
she's not going to write anything better. She's not going to write anything new. If Chuck and Mate's so good, thank God, stay in YA. Don't write adult.
And I think I did also say, like, maybe it's just too much for my smooth brain, but I didn't love how STEM it was sometimes. It was like, just talking about this jargon. I'm
Yes.
like, shut up. I'm not in school for a reason. I didn't ask for this. Like,
I
it
felt
just
so
got-
stupid.
Yes,
I would
exactly.
skim.
Smooth
I would,
brain.
I would skim.
Yeah.
If they were into like the DNA and
once
him
you
having
start talking about
DNA
math and
tattoos, and I was
science,
like,
I will say
Elevator
though,
music
people
is
who
in my
are
brain.
really into stuff like that, who don't get to experience the worlds that they live in ever in any like other way, are probably eating that up and loving it.
That's
and
like what
feeling
Crystal
so
said.
included.
Crystal
like they're
loves
feeling
those
so
STEM
not
languages.
included.
for us.
Yeah. Not for me.
Not
Thank you.
saying that Allie Hazelwood hasn't wrote really good books. Love Hypothesis was really good. I rated that a 5. Love on the Brain was terrible. Love Theoretically, I rated a 4.
Yeah.
Like they weren't
So they
bad.
were still good. We're
They
just
just-
not the appropriate audience.
Give
I
me
think.
something new. Now when Bride comes out,
Maybe.
maybe
I'll read it. I'll screen it for
we
you.
might actually do it maybe as a podcast idea, so it makes me read it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, right now my attitude on Allie Hazelwood, if you ever hear this, I'm so sorry, Allie, is I'm not gonna pick up another book. I'm not gonna waste my money. If you want to get on Kindle Unlimited, Allie, I'll maybe read it. But
Sorry, not
like,
sorry.
I'm not wasting my time on something I've read 3 other times before.
Yeah, facts.
I'm done. Like,
So, the other book that we read kind of as a group, I know Tarah DNF'd it, and
I did.
totally fair to Tarah. She was
listen.
probably the smart one out of the group.
this one broke my
DNF'd and DNA'd.
yeah,
this
Did
one
not finish the audio either.
yeah,
this one broke my heart.
it did. So it is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, which we are stans. Holly, Jen, and I, we went to the book release. We met him. We got our book signed. We had the whole photos taken. We listened to
We
him
went to
talk
dinner
about the book.
afterwards.
We did.
Not
It
with
was a
TJ
great
Klune,
day.
but not with TJ.
Oh, I wish, man. That would have been dope.
First
He's a kick, man.
3/4 of this book were great.
No,
But I
the
don't
first
feel
part
that
was
way.
good.
I was
man.
flying through it. I think there was even a point in the Buddy read where I was like, guys, I think this might be my new favorite of his book.
Oh, did you really say that?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
see, I
then
blocked everything out.
everything crashed and burned.
Yeah, it was
The
not good.
last quarter of the book was a complete letdown and just so overwhelmingly disappointed. I know that Holly had trouble connecting with the characters.
I did. And also, okay, let me say two things. So Anna, who is in our book club as well, I told her she reads so much. She's in like a book club online and she runs that. So I was telling her about it and she said, oh, I hear that a lot of people, and she had the same sentiment, they really like it in the first half and then it totally falls off. Yeah. But we still wanted to read it anyway. But also, I don't know if I've told you all this, or I don't know if I saw this, or if I came up with this theory. Smooth brain. No. Hear me out. So, I do a lot of horror stuff. I read it, I watch it. The scariest movie ever to me is The Brave Little Toaster. Have you all seen this movie?
Shut the fuck up.
My husband is afraid of it too.
No.
Who tortured you as a kid? That movie is phenomenal.
Okay,
I love it.
Shut up.
So, am I a horror slut?
I think it gave me PTSD. And I was a very scared little girl. I don't know how I became so into horror. I think I just forced myself into it because I was so scared of everything when I was a kid. But I still don't like watching that movie.
Really bad
when the air conditioner freaks out and kills itself on the wall. Did this book not remind you of that kind of? All the machines going out into the world? A robot? A robot.
No, I will say he did also.
Herbie? I mean, they were very different characters.
Herb was not.
Did you all notice that the vacuum's name, though, it's Rambo? But if I don't know if you only listened to it, but if you like read it, it's actually like they couldn't tell if it was an O and an A, and that they could have been backwards, and it means Roomba.
Roomba.
He did say that. He said at his signing we went to. He said that he did the vacuum after he got a Roomba for Christmas, and he just watched it go into little corners by itself,
freaking out in the corner.
Yeah,
and that's where the whole idea of
that's where the idea of
Rambo
vacuum.
I loved the vacuum.
Rambo.
Listen,
Me too.
I will say, out of the Lives of Puppets, I was most disappointed. I think because you're so used to a way the author writes, and then you get into a book that they maybe experimented on, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
And the ending wasn't good. The ending was very unfulfilling, and I'm not going to give it away, but. It wasn't like this feel good. Like when I read Under the Whispering Door, I cried at the end. Yes. Like I was doing my makeup and I was crying. I was just like, oh my God, a book has never really made me cry like this. And then same for House in the Cerulean Sea. It was a really good, happy ending. This one was it left me feeling very unfulfilled, very unsatisfied, very like, what the hell just happened? This is not the TJ Klune that I'm used to reading.
And he said that. He said that his readers are going to read this book and be like, what? Yeah. Because he wanted to do something different. And I think he's seen a negative impact because all his books are above 4 stars on Goodreads. And this one is below. Really? And I think he's seen that. So he dropped that he's coming out with the second book in the House of Cerulean Sea.
Yes.
And I think he's going to go back to writing that because some people do branch off. It doesn't work. Yeah. And they go back to what they know. TJ Klune wrote a book. Was it the greatest book? No. Was it the worst book? Absolutely not. But he knows now what his audience wants from him, and not always do you have to make money, right? But you don't have to make a lot of money. Authors, and he said he's not writing for the readers; he writes it for himself.
Started independent, he was very much an indie author that was releasing and promoting his stuff. And I think House on the Cerulean Sea was really where he picked up, and he's been able to re-release some older stuff, which we have not read. I know you read one. Yeah. Which we've not really, read and touched on. I think a lot of it's YA though, and just not literature that's necessary in our wheelhouse. But
he said he'll never touch YA again.
Yeah, and at this point, I really think that it was a miss. He took that swing and he tried, and a miss. Maybe it was a bit of a passion project for him, but it was a mess at the end of the day.
For readers, now for him, it might have been very fulfilling because, and I want to say this very loosely that. Writers or authors don't write for us.
They don't owe us anything.
They don't owe us anything. Right. And so at the end of the day, do we expect him to write another House in the Cerulean Sea or maybe Under the Whispering Door? No, because that's not realistic. He should write whatever he wants because his publisher is paying him. We're not paying him.
Right.
We don't sign his paychecks. We buy his books, but he doesn't owe us anything at the end of the day.
We don't owe him anything either.
Exactly. So for this one, it's a flop.
Don't mean to be rude.
Can't wait for the second the House in Cerulean Sea.
Yep.
But this one was a flop. To it. And you DNF'd it. How far did you get through before you DNF'd, Tarah?
So I got through to where the big thing happens in it that I think is a turning point in the book.
Is that when they find the?
For me, it was. So basically, it's you've met all your main characters, And then
I'm sorry, I'm over here
it's-
like trying to figure out where the big thing was because there was a couple.
So I know that it's supposed to be like a play on
Pinocchio.
you know, Pinocchio and
And
that
there was
sort of
a
thing.
lot of imagery worked in and a lot
Yeah.
of symbolism that was
But
great.
there's this whole big thing that happens, and I think it's in around like chapter 9.
Okay, not very
to
far.
11.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty.
You know,
far.
Well,
his
yeah,
chapters were
about
long.
this time.
I remember
38
that.
to 40%, but then it happens, and then so it was what happened after that like really just lost my interest, because
I
up
think
to
that's-
this point your
Yeah.
characters are fantastic. The way that they talk to each other and
the
like
interaction-
Oh my gosh, yeah.
the way they
Nurse
work together.
Ratchet.
She is great. Like
Fantastic.
I was laughing
I'd read just one on her.
so much.
Yeah.
Like I would sit and listen to a book about just the Rambo and Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, we should do like a. They
and
should do
him,
Ratchet
like,
Rambo
all the time.
Be
spin-off.
cute.
It was so good.
I
But-
will. Oh, go keep going.
Sorry.
Nope,
I was going to
you
say,
go.
so the reason I didn't finish it though is because after this big thing happened, like all of the characters just completely deflated. And
They became very flat,
yes.
except for Harp. He never got flat to me.
and
Is that Harp or Hap?
I just
Hap,
I
Hap.
struggled to
My
get
fault.
past that part past that, because like Nurse Ratchet wasn't even herself, and like she's a very straightforward, like here I am
She was strong.
character, like, and
Yeah.
she's a little robot too. And it's just like, here's what it is. She's just this very like, this is life. You just go. Here's what happened. And she was like, oh no, that's not going to be me for like these like 20 or 30 pages or however long it went on. Because I couldn't finish because I just got so mad that these characters, they didn't
change for the better. They didn't
Exactly.
develop in the right ways. They lost a part of themselves. And I understand why they lost a part of themselves.
Yes.
But that was what made it hard to keep going.
Yeah.
I also think sometimes that maybe publishers are like, get this book out. We need this book. So they build it really good in the first half or 100, 200 pages. And then their publishers on their back, maybe they've prolonged it because they've maybe writer's block or whatever happens. And now they're like, shit,
Yeah.
we got to get this book out. So let's just fuck it up. Like,
Yeah.
But I will say the one thing about this book, and then we can move on, is I love the representation in it. Asexual, TJ Klune, for anyone who doesn't know, is asexual himself. And so he wrote Vic like himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that representation was beautiful. And it was beautifully
Well
done.
Yes.
I loved the characters up until a certain point, and then I was like, this is excellent. And then I was like, well, I've read the book. I've read what I need to read. Got what I got out
Don't
of
read
it.
the ending. It left me so heartbroken.
It's really
and,
not worth it.
I think the
they
moral
were
of the
great.
story is that if we have household appliances, we don't need to take them on an adventure. We don't need to do a brave little toaster in the Lives of Puppets moment. We just leave those appliances at home.
We just
let
need
them
to-
rot
yeah.
and rust.
Well, when the government
Rot and rust. Wah.
when the government comes out and says, "Hey, you want a computer buddy for $19.99? It will do everything you need it to." We need to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've shared a lot of our favorites and quite a few opinions on some favorites and maybe even some not so favorites towards the end there. But we want to know what you think we should read based on what we loved. Interact with us, get on our socials.
And what was your favorite book of 2023?
Yeah, we want to know. We want to know what we missed, what we need to be reading for next year, what
Scream
you
at
guys
us.
want to see us focus
We love
on.
it.
So, other than that, we do have quite a few people that just absolutely made this podcast possible for us.
Yes.
Our book club friends and family have just been absolutely supportive. Our work family, our
Yes.
Oh, yes.
everybody we
Yeah.
know. Holly's husband Matt
Yes.
for
he's
providing
been
our equipment.
awesome. Yeah, he's
And-
got lots of recording equipment. He has
He
taken a
edits
lot of
our
time, and he's
podcast.
edited our first episode, and he just
He's going to
Yes.
continue until,
he loves doing that. So I appreciate that, and I know the girls appreciate that. So
we
much
have
of him
to
as well.
shout out to Julianne, who
Yeah.
who just knocked it out of the park with our logo.
Mm-hmm.
Our new Lit Talkers logo. If you haven't seen it, it's on our socials, and we've changed all our socials to it. She knocked it out of the park. She went through quite a few designs. We actually,
Yes.
we went back and forth with her, and we got to what we both wanted. She got to really have a lot of independence with it.
Yes,
Kind of. We just
yeah.
gave her like a feel for it, and she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
We gave her
absolutely.
artistic freedom.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely,
That's what I was
yeah.
looking for, but I cannot. Smooth brain.
We're very satisfied with the result. Jen and
She's
I, of
fantastic,
course,
yeah.
have parents that are watching our kids,
Yes.
so that we're able to be here a little less interrupted and actually get some things down on paper.
We're just thankful, and
Yeah.
we're so excited for the journey.
Yeah,
Man.
and we love, you all asking us about it and telling us that you're excited. And I think we talked earlier, if I think a lot of our people are local, so if you want to get like a decal for your car, like you saw on our TikToks,
Yeah,
I
hit
would
me
say
up.
we're down for that.
We'll take care of you.
Anything that you all can help us do to spread the word. And we want this to be a good open dialogue. We want to hear from our listeners about what you all want, what you like, what you don't like, so that we can continue on.
Yeah, we're starting out, so you guys have an opportunity. We will plan our podcast around you guys. If there's something that you really want us to read
sure.
and talk about, just reach out and let us know. Our next episode, though, we are going to look forward into the new year a little bit and share with you guys some books that we are super excited for in 2024. And hopefully you guys will read some of them with us, and a lot of them you'll probably hear about right here on the podcast. So make sure you stick around, guys.
Yeah, come back for episode 2.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.